Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and so sorry for the delay and the multiple emails that you may or may not have received today in regards to today's session. Have all that figured out on the technical side and have that all figured out for next month's luncheon. So my apologies. But if your team won or lost, I hope you have recovered from the Super Bowl. FCA thanks you for attending today's luncheon, and a special thank you to our luncheon sponsors. Without our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to provide STEM scholarships and educational materials for our youth. And to keep things short, I'm not going to go through our sponsors, but we really appreciate all of our sponsors. Congratulations to our Dayton-Wright chapter for receiving the Model Chapter Award. Amelia Fisher and I were honored to accept the award last evening in sunny San Diego with several other chapters. These awards are compounded with many factors, and we are very fortunate to have many volunteers, sponsors, and distinguished guests who help us be a model chapter. I would like to mention some upcoming events. Our emerging leaders have an event March 10th at the Troll Pub in Dayton, and next month's luncheon features Matthew Jacobson and Matthew Dever with Hangar 18, the software factory located here in Dayton, Ohio. April 21st, we will have another hybrid event featuring Colonel Eric Felt, Commander of AFRL Phillips Research Site Director, Space Vehicles Directorate. And later in the year, we will have our annual golf outing, casino night, and Wright IT Summit. If you're interested in sponsoring any of these events, please reach out and please register on our website and like our LinkedIn page to get all the updates on what's happening in our chapter. I will now turn the floor over to our chapter president, Yvonne Vermillion, for a special announcement.
Thanks, Joni. I appreciate it. I have two announcements today I wanted to talk about. First of all, I wanted to pleased to present this President's Award to Mr. Sean Lyman. Sean, I think you're on the call today. Sean was as a previous board member of the Dayton-Wright chapter of AFCEA, but he was also a moderator at our last WITS conference and a panel that he moderated on weapon system digital transformation, a fantastic topic that included some exceptional senior leaders and really good dialogue and discussion. We are very honored to be able to have Sean as our new Wright IT Summit chairperson for 2022. For his support for the chapter, I'm honored to present you this President's Award. I don't know if Sean is able to unmute, but
he's speechless, Yvonne. He is absolutely speechless.
He is. He had to dial him from his phone. I think that was him. He wasn't able to get dialed in quickly. So, but thank you, Sean. But thank you for chiming up, Dr. Meixner, because I also have, I'm pleased and honored to present you this Chairman's Award to you, Dr. Meixner, for all of your support for our chapter, not only as a board member with your strategic thinking, guidance, and direction, but also for your tenacious support of our Wright IT Summit with your vision to change the forum to a two-day event focusing on Industry 4.0. The last 2 years have been just phenomenal. We've raised thousands of dollars for STEM scholarships. We've had numerous government, civilian, and industry personnel come to us and say they've learned so much from the conference that they have gained a lot of value out of that conference. And that's directly attributable to your support, your work, your hard work on this event. So thank you very much.
Hey, thanks, Yvonne. And, you know, just to say a few words about Sean Lyman. No, I'm just kidding. I won't talk about Sean. Actually, I would say that, you know, the last 2 years have been really, really beneficial to me as well. So, you know, being able to give to AFCEA and the Dayton Wright chapter is a huge opportunity for me. And I'm humbled by the generosity of you, both in time and support, in making this happen, because I would tell you that you know, putting the idea out there and executing it is two different things, and you really execute this Wright IT Summit so well. It's really matured, I think, to a showpiece of a summit. And I look forward to not only passing the torch to Sean, even though it was bittersweet, but he tugged it out of my hands, but really also being able to support it as now a participant and actually be able to absorb that content, because I've been a little jealous being on the other side, just listening to all these great speeches, but being prepared for the next speaker, I lost some content there that I'm hoping to regain as a participant now going forward. So thank you for the recognition. Thank you for the support. And I will tell you, this is a great chapter to be a part of and continue to engage in. So thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I hear you on not being able to absorb the content. I went back and was reviewed those the YouTube videos of the content several times since the conference, because yeah, you know, working back and making sure everything runs smoothly, you didn't get a chance to absorb a lot of that content. So again, thank you very much. Joni, over to you.
Thank you, Yvonne, and congratulations to both of the award winners there. To keep things short, Colonel Heathman will probably say thank you for not reading my entire bio, so I'm going to turn the floor over to him, and if you would like to read his bio, we'll have that uploaded into the WAFCEA portal. So over to you, sir.
All right, Joni, thank you so much. And Yvonne, thank you for hosting me today and allowing me to spend some time with WAFCEA. I've been thinking about this engagement a lot, and these are so important. And I want to get just one answer to a question that I know is on all of your minds. So in case you're wondering, yes, I'm 47 years old. I get the question of how old is that guy in about 50% of my briefings and engagements. I just got it last night when I was speaking at St. Louis University. And, am I secret? And that's the other question. Keeps me young. So you all have my bio, but again, my name is Colonel Jeremiah Scott Heathman. I go by my middle name, Scot. So you'll see J. Scott in there quite a bit. I've been in the Air Force for about 25 years, and I'm actually retiring this year. Sad to say that. I've had an incredible career to this point, but I tell you, it's been phenomenal to end it here at Scott Air Force Base, just outside of St. Louis. I commanded this wing for 2 years. I gave up command in July. I moved to 18th Air Force as the vice commander this past summer. And I couldn't think of a better way to transition, into civilian life. But this is one of my passions. It's always been connecting with the community, connecting with industry, connecting with academia, small business, you name it, because what you all do, the defense industrial base, is extremely important. And I think that, these various WAFCEA chapters, through your engagements and connections with the Department of Defense and other federal agencies is critically important. And I hope to kind of just share a couple ways today that, we can keep that engagement going in some areas that we focus on here at 18th Air Force, and then just give you a little brief intro to what 18th Air Force is today and who exactly belongs to 18th Air Force. So if we go to slide 2, and I promise you, this is not a presentation that's going to have 50 slides. I intentionally want to keep this short and sweet because I want to hear some of your questions. But just to start you off, what is 18th Air Force? Who are we? What are the forces involved? The mission of 18th Air Force is to prepare airmen to basically fight in the contested global air mobility environment. So when you think of something that needs to get flown from point A to B and every point in between, it's probably a force out of 18th Air Force. And you can see on this slide here, we've got 12 active duty wings that make up 18th Air Force, which is about 36,000 airmen. We do have 2 other groups that are around the globe that directly report to the commander of 18th Air Force, who is currently Major General Thad Bibb. He's a 2-star commander, and his boss is the commander of Air Mobility Command, General Mike Minahan. So we have a very close relationship with Air Mobility Command. We're kind of the air arm of logistics. So when you think of everything that needs to move within the Transportation Command, if it needs to be moved by ground, sea, or air, the 4-star commander of Transcom gets to pick. And when she chooses the air portion, it's usually us or one of our units delivering that. 18th Air Force itself, this and I work directly for the 2-star. There's about 40 of us that make up the staff. And as you can imagine, an organization that's looking over 36,000 airmen, we've got folks focused on the legal arm of that. So about half of our staff are involved in the legal aspects of help and support to our base and to our airmen. And then the other half of the staff is kind of subject matter experts in things from personnel HR type activities to logistics support, to infrastructure support, to special actions that the commander needs. So he's got a commander's action group that works on all of his special projects. And then we have a command chief, a senior enlisted leader here, Chief Chad Bickley, who travels a lot with General Bibb to these wings to ensure that he has firsthand knowledge of what are the challenges that they're facing, what are the successes they're seeing, practices, and share those with the other wings. The other command within Air Mobility Command is the Expeditionary Center. That is a partner 2-star command out in New Jersey at Joint Base McGuire-Dix Lakehurst. And they are part of the expeditionary. So if you think of, as we're moving logistics globally, anywhere we need to stop, these en route stops, they have the forces that enable that. They also can enable airfield opening and security and movement of personnel as well. So they've got quite a few centers of excellence out at the EC as well. And so we partner with them if we need some training needs or we need some help getting forces to and from. So that's a little bit about who we are. If you go to the next slide, you'll see a little bit of the number of aircraft that we have here within. A little bit over 400 aircraft of just about every type. I don't know if this slide is not shifted over yet. Might be a little bit of a lag in there. But we've got everything from the largest cargo planes in the Air Force, the mighty C-5. I have flown the C-17 and the KC-135. So I've been on both the air refueling end where I'm giving the gas, and I've been on the receiving end where I'm receiving that gas in the C-17. So we have airlift tanker aircraft. We also have a couple fleets of executive airlift. And that's providing everything from the transportation to the President of the United States, the VC-25, or as you know, Air Force One, or that could be some of the smaller Gulfstream Boeing 767s that are carrying some of our congressional delegations, some of our top 5 movers, such as the Secretary of State, name it, the First Lady, the First Gentleman, whatever needs to be moved, we are usually taking part in that some form or fashion. So again, that's a little bit of the fleets we're looking at. Our newest one that you're probably familiar with, some of you are familiar with, is the KC-46, which is a Boeing 767 that's been converted for air refueling capability. So it gives you an idea of the fleets of aircraft and the number of aircraft that we have within 18th Air Force. If you go to the next slide, and I'll give you just a brief overview of some of our strategic objectives in 18th Air Force, and try to make these really simple to understand here. First and foremost is developing our airmen. That's the people, that's the human capital that we want to invest in and ensure that they're performing at their peak. The second strategic objective of our strategy is advancing the force and installation warfighting readiness. Look at just the force that we're trying to deliver. When the chairman, when the president puts out the order and the chairman is presenting those joint forces for whatever conflict or humanitarian relief, whatever that may be, we want to make sure not only our people, our equipment are ready to go, but also the bases that support them to get them out of town should it need to go to serve somewhere. And then lastly, we prepare the force to generate credible capability. Not only are we preparing them to do whatever fight and get involved in whatever fight they may need to get involved in, or any capabilities that we need to have ready to go, we are constantly looking at ways to increase our readiness posture, bring on new training capabilities, so that we kind of show whoever that adversary might be that maybe you do not want to get involved in a conflict with the United States. That is part of our deterrence arm, and constantly looking at how for a high-end fight, let's say with a partner like with an adversary like China or Russia, you know, we want to make sure that we're on the leading edge and we have the advantage in a fight like that. So those are our three objectives. I want to pause right there just for a second and see if there are any questions on a little bit about 18th Air Force or just kind of the objectives.
Hey, Colonel, this is Wade Rupert. How are you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, so, you know, what is the percentage of the lift that you guys provide for the Air Force? And when I ask that question, I know you've got quite a bit of lift with the Guard and the Reserve, and then you've got a percentage that's overseas, OCONUS. So what, you know, you guys tend to take care of that, or you're located in the CONUS, but what percentage of the lift do you guys actually provide for the overall Air Force, total force?
If I just talk on Air Mobility Command, and that would include the Air National Guard and the of the Air Force, you know, whatever the need is, that first ask will come in through U.S. Transportation Command. They have delegated that authority, the Air Force authorities, over to the commander of Air Mobility Command. You know, we're probably in the 70-80% of that lift, because we do rely on a lot of commercial partners, right? You know, we can't do it all. You know, we have a lot of these resources, and I would be lying if I didn't say that we've got combatant commanders that certainly want all the tankers or they want all the airlift, but that has to be evenly spread out, right, based on the needs that we have going on globally, or even here at home. It ebbs and flows, so it's hard to give you like a standard day how much is gray tail, if you will, active duty, Guard, or Reserve, and how much is what you saw in Afghanistan. We were providing the bulk of the airlift in there, one, just because of the environment. You know, we were engaged in conflict while we were removing people out of Afghanistan and out of harm's way. You know, we're not probably going to push a commercial carrier in there unless we've got you know, some assurances that, hey, the safety, health and safety of that is going to be okay. So it will ebb and flow. If I talk about the Guard, Reserve, and active duty, kind of what that percentage is, it depends on the weapon system that we're talking about. So for the KC-135, about 70% of the tanker force is in the Guard and Reserve. If you talk about aeromedical evacuation, okay, there's not an airplane that can, you know, one single airplane that delivers aeromedical evacuation. We can use a variety of platforms to deliver that evacuation. All those teams and units, about 80% are in the Guard and Reserve. So from an active duty standpoint, we only own a small percentage of those capabilities. You know, the C-17 fleet, we own the bulk of those. We have 222 total aircraft. You know, it's not quite as a disparate 70-30 percentage like it is with tankers, but we certainly have a lot of Guard and Reserve support on the C-17 side as well. And again, 7067, the KC-46 767 variant there, we're going to see again some of that move into the Guard and Reserve, and some of that move on the active duty side, you know, to keep that tanker force is spread out as much as we can based on, you know, what the need is. So if I could put it into a timing aspect, about every 2 minutes, an aircraft in Air Mobility Command is taking off or landing somewhere, if that gives you a frequency that we're out and about.
That was a great answer. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Colonel Heathman, I know that you and other installations are focused on their people, but what is the biggest struggle that you find in keeping your airmen focused and wanting to stay with the mission?
I think one of the challenges that commanders have each and every day is trying to connect that airman to the mission. You know, it's easy for a 4-star to say, go do this, or hey, we got to get after X, Y, or Z. We have to translate all that commander's intent down to the lowest level. And so what that means to me is if the staff sergeant gets it, you know, some of our youngest airmen get it, then we probably have done a really good job at delivering that commander's intent. And it's been translated appropriately so that they can take it and turn it into, okay, I know what I see the vision. Now I need to develop a training plan so that I can make sure that my airmen are ready. I think I say that's a challenge, but it's a daily challenge that we constantly face, is making sure that our front line, those that are going to be in the trenches, those in the cockpits of airplanes, those that are working on the airplanes, they understand why we're going to this location to go do what we're going to do. It's easy sometimes to maybe just tell the engineers, but you don't necessarily talk face to face to the assembly line workers, or maybe it's late to get to that why. It is important, and I think even, you know, reading some of Jack Welch's you know, teachings here, you know, there was a reason why he started reverse mentoring you know, within his company. It was to ensure that his engineers understood the challenges of the frontline workers and vice versa, so that they could at least start getting to an understanding, a mutual, even though they're in pursuit of the same goal. So it's, again, it's a little bit of a needs understanding from higher up to lower level. I think that's, again, probably one of the most prevalent challenges that we are constantly mindful of. If you talk about just what's happening in the world today, let's say with the pandemic, to say that mental health is not a challenge right now, I think you'd be foolish to say that. It's being talked a lot about just in general society. It is prevalent within the military as well. It has certainly left its mark in various forms and fashions across our organizations, just like it probably has within yours. You know, we used to think that teleworking was going to be a challenge to get to, even though that capability existed long before the pandemic. You know, we've got, you know, I've supervised civilians where I could allow them to telework long before we really look at work differently. Even in the military, there are certain functions that even somebody in uniform can do via telework. I've spent quite a few days teleworking myself as the wing commander of an active duty wing here at Scot. I am pretty effective working at home with a cell phone and a good internet connection these days. You give me that, I can do a lot of damage, right? I can get after my mission. I can do what I need to do. I can talk to my commanders in the field. I can talk to my airmen. There's not a whole lot I couldn't do from my home foxhole, if you will. I certainly want to be out and about with the airmen, and there's certain functions that you just can't telework. You know, I can't telework guards at the front gate, you know, security of the base. Those kinds of things are going to need some people, but I would say that we are even looking at other ways that, you know what, robotics. And we've even tested that capability with some robotic dogs here at Scott Air Force Base. It's kind of spooky, and I've been aware of the development of this, but it's pretty impressive, you know, how I can scale when I'm not going to get endless airmen to defend the base. You know, if I can cover some gaps with some alternative technology, I'm going to get after that, because again, it's the cost of training that I don't necessarily have to go through with a human being. It's a little bit of force protection built into that. There's a lot of capability that I can gain through alternative structures like that. So some of those challenges of looking at how we just conduct our work today, the pandemic has kind of forced us into change, which I think has been a good thing. So does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll go into some big and I just want to give you kind of 3 vignettes here. If we can go on to the next slide. Actually, you can go ahead and go forward 2 slides. I want to touch on 3 areas that I think some of you might be able to help us. And that's what I want to share with you. A lot of our wings have jumped in full force in virtual reality, mixed reality training. There's probably not an Air Force base that you can't go to where there's not some form or fashion of this happening. The challenge is, how do we take this to the next level? What virtual reality and mixed reality has done for us in the Air Force in particular is we've been able to substitute getting our hands on the real thing with virtual environments that are cheaper, faster, and more portable. And what I mean by this is I no longer need to take 10 airmen out to an airplane and give it to maintenance for the day and have 10 airmen standing around let's say a master sergeant teaching them how to change out a tire, right? I can now put on a VR headset, do that same thing in a VR environment. I can see my checklist of things that I have to do in order to take the tire off, jack the airplane up, take the tire off, maybe replace the brakes, you name it. That airman can actually be sitting in their dorm room, and that master sergeant can be sitting at home. Or that airman could be working on it in their dorm room after hours, just to maybe brush up on some skills or maybe a system on the aircraft that they haven't touched in a while. For a crew chief to be able to do that is incredible. Where we're starting to see that, particularly at Dyess Air Force Base with the C-130 fleet, I think Dyess and Little Rock, both C-130 fleets, are probably the furthest along in some of this training, not just for operators, but for maintenance. A team overseas somewhere and they have a problem with the aircraft, literally call back home in a VR headset and say, can you walk me through this problem set? I got an airplane down right now. This is what I'm seeing. Can you walk me through some processes here where I can get this aircraft fixed and flying, to wherever it needs to go? That is where we're at these days. We are constantly looking for ways to incorporate more virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality in certain cases, on how we can enhance training. And we've been finding that, this is just as good as hands-on. Matter of fact, I was sitting in a briefing a couple months ago, and I saw this mindset challenge a little bit. We were talking about, getting our hands on a trainer, basically an aircraft that is a maintenance trainer. It's an overwhelming amount of dollars to chop the wings off, to move it, just so that we can use it as a test bed to train on. And it was challenged by some folks in the room that, why can't we do this and recreate this? Let's say it's a C5, a cargo plane. Why can't we recreate this environment in VR and just train on it there? And a gentleman in the room said, well, sir, nothing beats getting your hands on the real thing. And the senior leader in the room says who? And I just happened to be walking home lunch one day, and that senior leader was walking the same direction I was, and I was listening to this briefing on a VTC. And I said, sir, thank you for saying that, because I tell you, I got 2 VR headsets at home, and in about an hour's time, playing a game that my son had downloaded, that was involving World War. I taught myself how to fly a Sopwith Camel, World War I biplane, and I learned how to drop bombs on trains. And I literally could look down on the cockpit, while I was trying to prevent myself from stalling, picking up the bomb which was right in my pocket of my flight suit. And I'm looking at all this in VR, pulling it out and holding my hand outside the cockpit and trying to figure out what was the right lead point to drop this thing. How do I hit the engine car? How do I avoid getting hit by flak and everything else? It may seem like a game, but I'm still kind of teaching myself. I've never flown a prop airplane in my life. I've never flown anything like this, and let alone dropped a bomb outside of the cockpit. And I was telling him this story. I said, sir, I think that's old-fashioned thinking that we can't replicate this in VR and that it can't be substitutable. I think we need to challenge those philosophies and also challenge a little bit of that traditional thinking. Our value in this, and even our oldest airmen are blown away by the capabilities that this brings, and they wish they had that as young airmen when they grew up in this Air Force. The last thing I'll say about VR, there's probably not a lot of you that know that we're doing suicide prevention and training, intervention training through VR right now. When I was a commander here at Scot Air Force Base, we were the test location for that. And so we received about 20 headsets, VR headsets. The software was already developed, so we basically just put it on and went through the training. And when I went through the training first started with Tony Dungy. Coach
Coming
Tony
in
Dungy.
and out, your comm is.
Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes, better now. Thank you.
Okay. So I put this headset on, and the first person I see is Tony. Suicide, and he lost his son to suicide, and talking about the lesson plan. And then next thing you know, I was in a room with an airman at his house. I was playing the role of the first sergeant. We had ended up at his house, and he was going through a tough time. And I'm looking around his house, and I can see that it's in disarray, and I can see alcohol, and I can see that he's got a loaded weapon on the table, and he's struggling. And this is a real person. This isn't a CGI. This was a real person. And I had all kinds of different things that I could say to him. I could pick and choose. It was so realistic that you almost needed support yourself when you were done with this lesson. And that's been the feedback, that it was incredible, but we also had to have some support there in the room, just in case some airmen, maybe had a little bit of an emotional reaction. We have airmen who have experienced this, maybe family members or friends. I've lost airmen to suicide. It hits close to the heart. And I tell you, that training was incredible. And to be able to do this in VR is a heck of a lot better than listening to a briefing or doing this through a computer-based training, just flipping through slides. So I think there's a lot of capability here that we can learn from industry, from academia, who can develop these kinds of platforms and the ability to bring this to airmen. I'll stop right there for a second, see if there's any questions on VR or mixed reality. All right, I'll move to the next
Colonel
one.
Heathman, Joni.
Yeah, go ahead.
So with the that throughout other bases.
I'm sorry, you're a little bit cut off there. Can you say that again?
Sure. So with the pilot that you had with the virtual reality and suicide prevention, and the pilot went so well, is that going to be deployed out to other installations?
Absolutely. So Scot Air Force Base and Travis Air Force Base were kind of the initial pilot program test bases. They're collecting all that data here within the command and within the Air Force, and that is the goal. They're getting such good feedback on it that they've gone through a couple iterations. They've adapted the training a little bit. We put some disclosures at the beginning of the training that, hey, this might tug at you in a way that you're not expecting. We've learned these kinds of things as we've employed it out with other airmen and out across the Air Force. And even though there's a cost to get those headsets, we can use those VR headsets for other applications, right? We can load other training modules. Matter of fact, they're now testing sexual assault prevention training in VR, and they're developing that curriculum and now taking that type of training into the VR realm as well. So we're hitting some very humanistic problem sets here in VR that I think are going to be some of the best training that you could possibly ask for when it comes to sexual assault prevention and suicide prevention.
Great, thank you. And we have a question in the chat session here as well for you.
Yeah.
The question is, where does mobility's rapid at one time there was an air mobility warfare at Fort Dix. They were charged with developing new technology concepts. Is there an organization that's certainly responsible for that? Over.
Yeah, I tell you what, why don't you go ahead 2 slides, because that'll tie into this this third one here, and I could come back to the second one here in a bit. Our innovation hubs is kind of where to tie in. So if you're looking to understand what a base is potentially working on, where they're potentially rapid prototyping or going through some design thinking and charrettes, the innovation hubs or spark cells, as you will, most of the Air Force bases have these days. And I would say even a lot of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Space Force, you name it, they do have innovation cells that are popping up, because we've understood now the value of this is probably a better mechanism for us to communicate outward to industry, academia, and government. Out in a little bit at Fairchild, because I stood up both the spark cells at these locations. It was the one at Fairchild called Inland Spark, that was basically non-existent, and we stood that up. And the one here at Scot was just barely broken ground, and we kind of built that up. We call it Elevate here at Scott Air Force Base. We have turned those things into areas where airmen can bring in their problem sets, and then we try to get that back out into the community or into small business and things like that. Where else we advertise some of those problem sets are through Spark Tank events, which some of you are probably familiar with. Also through the Small Business Initiative SIBR process. A lot of the bases are heavily involved through looking at small business investments where and you think you've got the capability or technology to cover a gap or a problem set. We like to hear from you. Matter of fact, I just took a call yesterday talking about a visualization engineering program to kind of develop an aid in strategy development for organizations. And when I asked, how would we bring you on in a contracting realm, we could work that through a SIBR phase 1, so that it wouldn't be 100% of our dollars, because we just don't have a lot of money in 18th Air Force, and neither do these spark cells. They don't have endless budgets, but there is been some money supplemented through the SIBR process to be able to help both parties in this process. One thing here that's been great with Elevate here at Scott Air Force Base is we partnered up with Air Force Research Labs, and we've been designated as an AFRL here at Scott Air Force Innovation Hubs to achieve that designation. And by having that, we're able to establish educational partnerships agreements. So I signed one last year with Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, an educational partnership agreement, so that I can use some of their 3D printing labs. They've got a lot more equipment than we do, a lot more expertise, professors, students, things like that, and vice versa. They can now come out to the base a little bit more freely and work on projects. We have them looking at a couple different projects as far as base resiliency and some autonomous mower type technologies that we've got going on here at Scott. A number of the bases within 18th Air Force, I think I can point to something at every one of our 12 wings that they're getting after, and then we try to bring those together with the 18th, pushed up through Air Mobility Command's innovation expertise. So there is an innovation arm of AMC that is also looking at all of the things the command is getting after and where some of the priorities and gaps that we like to get after, and pushing that out as well. So those are some of the easy ways where some of this development is taking place. But we're doing a lot of this out of hide, and we absolutely do not have all the expertise and can't scale to the level that we really need to in some cases. So that's where we rely on folks like you and your organizations or your schools to come in and help and see where, we can get smart or potentially, get into a contract where, hey, you are now helping us close a gap. It might be in the area of security or things like that. So I hope that answers your question. If we go back just one slide, I want to just touch on the multi-capable airman. I won't spend a lot of time on here because I know we're getting close to time, but multi-capable airman is a concept here where, if you were chosen in the Air Force to serve as a civil engineer, let's say that you work heavy equipment and you're great at paving roads and things like that. A multi-capable airman is taking you not only the expertise you have in your day job, but I might ask you to do something different. And it's because the nature of war that we are thinking about what we might find ourselves involved with should we end up in a major conflict with a country like China, Russia, things like that. I may be asking airmen to do something outside of their functional community. And so we're giving them skills to be able to do kind of a jack of all trades, if you will. Here this morning, but then I may need you to be in our, a key person in our command and control mission at a certain location. So we try to build these cross-functional teams to really provide the warfighter, the leadership, the flexibility they need to be able to operate independently or in an environment that's going to be really tough to operate in. So we do have our Expeditionary Center that is training a lot of these airmen to be multi-capable airmen. Not every airman in the Air Force is going to be designated as a multi-capable airman, but certain career fields we're looking independently at, like maybe we could invest a little bit more training and we can get a little bit more bang for our buck because this airman has additional skills and they have the confidence to be able to go employ those skills in what could be a very complex combat environment. So you might hear that term a lot more frequently, and just wanted to give you an understanding of what that means. If you go ahead 2 slides, and this is the last one really, here's where you can help. Continue to work with the base community relations directors. If you're looking for the front door of an Air Force base, it isn't always the wing commander. That may be the represented lead of that installation, but every base will have a community relations director, and they live within the public affairs of the base. You can Google public affairs Charleston Air Force Base or Joint Base Charleston, you can, McConnell Air Force Base, look up their public affairs person. That's where you're going to find a lot of the community relations leads, or they're going to be working within the director of staff up at the wing level. That person, if they haven't already reached out to you, that's someone you can connect to and say, I'd really like to spend some time. Is there an event that I can link access to the innovation hub there? Is there someone I can speak to? They can give you those contacts and be able to link you up. I know probably a lot of you are familiar with Air Force Works, AFWorks, the challenge program. I put the website up there. If you go out to the website, it's got a ton of information on some of the challenges that the Air Force and Space Force have designated that they need help in. And you can look at what the current challenges are, and you might have a business or a academia interest or expertise and may want to give and provide some of that to these challenges. And that website will connect you with ways to stay in touch with those. Some of you have maybe been involved in things like honorary commander programs or various community engagements. You might be civic leaders yourselves in the Dayton area with Wright-Patterson, or if you're not, I encourage you to find those folks within your chapter here that have done that and say, how did you get involved as an honorary commander? Those are nominated folks. I would get nominations from the community. I kind of said to my community relations director, hey, for this year's class of honorary commanders, I'm looking for, I want to expand across the river, the Mississippi River. I want to get further out into St. Louis. I want to get more from academia. I want to get more from the innovation community. And so she kind of went out and talked to a lot of different people. And I had about 30 nominations, just incredible people. And I was able to find somebody to basically adopt them with, a unit that would adopt them to be an honorary commander for the year. So I don't think we turned away anybody because we had such great candidates, and I want to make sure that we could link them up and get them access to the base and our mission partners. So that is a one. And then lastly, I just encourage you to not be intimidated by the base. I heard this a couple times with times I'd speak with the superintendents around the base, about improving, access in the schools and programs and things that, we thought we could educate the school systems on about some of our airmen and what the challenges our families face. And one of the superintendents, who was a good friend, she said, it's always intimidating coming through the gate and coming on base for a meeting. And I said, you know what? There probably isn't a reason I have to always have this meeting on the base. I can certainly come off base to you too. I just didn't understand that might be a little bit of a barrier. And I tell you, I love getting off base, because usually we can come out to, a facility that you owned or spend time. I did a lot of my offsites for my wing in downtown St. Louis, an incubator, an innovation hub, if you will. They've got NGA, a National Geospatial Agency presence there. I did it in their facilities, and they provided me just a space so that I could bring my team in. But I tell you, I got a chance to learn about them because part of my offsite, I involved a tour of their facilities because I wanted my leadership team to understand, what this innovation hub in downtown St. Louis can provide. You've got a wonderful innovation sector there in Dayton with the Wright Brothers Institute and a number of the innovation hubs downtown that are well connected. And I'm always hopeful that the base is coming out to see those, or that you're kind of getting their faces and saying, let me show you what we got. So don't be intimidated by the bases or the leadership or the uniform. If we need to down dress and go to an environment where we're all business casual and just involved and do that. All right, I'm going to end it right there. And I think my last slide literally is a thank you. Like I said, I know we're at time here. I'll leave it. I'll stay online here to answer any questions that may come up. And Joni, if you need to cut me off, please do. Okay.
Oh, well, I want to be sensitive to your schedule as well, especially since we started late. But thank you so much for a great discussion, and we really appreciate your partnership and sharing your slides and your time today for you. And I'm not sure if you can answer, you can also decline. But with your retirement, can you share who is replacing you or taking your spot?
Yeah. Actually, it's a good friend of mine. Her name is Adrienne Williams. She is currently the wing commander out in Ramstein at the 521st Air Mobility Operations Wing, fully involved in the Afghanistan evacuations as folks were, as families and everybody was leaving Afghanistan, as we are transporting them through the Middle East and then, getting them to the United States. Ramstein Air Base, the wing commander there, who's a 1-star, and then her wing there basically has supported that the facilities and the stand up of just a gigantic camp, if you will, to take care of these families. So that was really one of the initial screening parts to this, and making sure that they're taking care, their medical concerns are met. They were literally merging families back together. We would get small children, babies, they would be on one airplane and mom would be on another and dad would be on another. And so for the first time, their families were really getting together in Ramstein Air Base, and it's absolutely incredible. They're still working through a lot of that, and I work in a lot of European issues right now that we're all probably watching the news on. She's heavily involved in some of that. But Adrian will be here later this summer. And like I said, she's a good friend. I couldn't ask for someone better to come in. And you know, we're just surrounded by just incredible, talented people. Yeah, I'm excited to have her in. And I'm going to be sticking around the area here in the Southern Illinois myself. I've got a son in high school. He's going to be going through senior year next year. I'm going to get involved in organizational development and coaching and things like that as an independent consultant. And I'm looking just to start my own business. So standing up my LLC and do some independent consulting and contracting myself. So I'm excited to do that. I'm nervous. I'm learning a lot as I've used mentorship programs that have been provided to veterans at IBM, and he's kind of talking to me about that transition. And I couldn't ask for better folks to help me than some of you out there who do that, who volunteer their time to help veterans in transition. So thank you for that.
Well, we do all and we again have open availability on March 10th. We'll see you at the Troll Pub for the leader event happening and for our future luncheon. So with that, have a great rest of the week, everyone. Thank you, Colonel Heathman.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate being with you all today. So let me know if I can serve you in the future, okay?
Great, thank you, and good luck in your retirement and your future endeavors.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.